January 16th was the first day I woke up without stalking my ex-boyfriend's social media updates. I knew that. 6 months after the breakup, I had finally made it through the withdrawal period. That day, I deleted all my burner accounts. Relief came suddenly, and there was no need to post anything to prove that I had let go. But Sam couldn't sit still anymore. His profile picture kept appearing again and again in my visitor records. At last, he couldn't hold back and called me. Zoe, I regret it. Chapter 1. When Sam's call came in, I froze for a moment. During the first 3 months after the breakup, every night before going to sleep, I turned my phone volume all the way up, terrified of missing it. I had imagined countless times what it would be like when he called. How I would answer coldly. How I would hear him say, "I regret it." How I would casually reply with, "Oh, really?" and then hang up. I must have imagined that scene no fewer than 50 times, and every time I finished imagining it, I felt especially vindicated. I longed to hear regret in his voice, but when I really looked at the familiar number on the screen, I realized there was not even the slightest ripple left in my heart. Only afterward did it hit me. So when you truly let go, there are no feelings left at all. Actually, this phone call was not unexpected. Lately, his profile picture had been showing up frequently on my social media accounts. I knew he was sending some kind of signal, but I had no time to guess at what he was doing. Throughout the past 3 years of breaking up and getting back together, we had always kept the same tacit understanding. I was the one responsible for breaking up, and he was the one responsible for making up. To outsiders, even when he was single, there was never any shortage of women pursuing him. Yet he always seemed devoted to me alone. But love is like drinking water. Only the one drinking it knows whether it is warm or cold. Only I knew the bitterness hidden inside it. As for Sam, how should I put it? He seemed to indulge my every whim, but in fact he was someone with extremely rigid principles. His principle was this: if he was willing to give it, you did not need to ask. If he was unwilling to give it, asking was useless. One time, I had a fever of 38.5 degrees Celsius and texted him that I felt awful. He replied instantly, "I'm on my way." Half an hour later, he showed up at my door carrying medicine and porridge, fed me, and stayed by my side the entire night. But he was also the same man. After we had a falling out, I refused to answer his call, and after that, he never called again. After a week of Cold War, he showed up at my door. Sometimes with an expensive bracelet watch, sometimes with a hard-to-get bag, sometimes with plane tickets to a country I had casually mentioned wanting to visit. He would appear with gifts as if nothing had happened, as attentive and generous as ever. When I tried to communicate and solve the problem behind our Cold War, he said calmly, "Zoe, I didn't come to see you so we could keep arguing." He indulged my every whim, but only in the part he was willing to give. He lived with an ease that made people envy him. Ever since childhood, whatever he wanted came to him easily. So if something required exhausting effort to obtain, he did not want it either. This was not aloofness. It was laziness. He could be very thoughtful toward me, yet he was too lazy to put thought into solving problems. He let me process my emotions on my own. By the time time had dulled everything, I could no longer even remember what we had originally fought about. Little by little, we began to habitually use Cold War to solve our problems. The last time we fought, I spent the entire dinner glued to my phone and only spoke up once we were in the car. I asked him, "Can you not be like this in the future?" He did not say anything and lowered his head to turn on my heated seat. "I'm talking to you. I heard you." He looked up at me, his calm gaze so steady it made my chest tighten. "But what am I supposed to say?" "Say I'm sorry. I was wrong?" "Then you'd definitely think I was just brushing you off." "Say I don't think there's any problem?" "Then you'd be even angrier." "So what am I supposed to say?" I froze. When two people clearly think differently, and saying it out loud will definitely lead to an argument, then why say anything at all? He fastened my seat belt for me. "If you don't have anything to say, then don't say anything for now. Wait until you've thought it through yourself." That night, I sat alone in the living room until 3 in the morning. After he got home, he did not send me a single message. 3 days later, he came to see me with a Tiffany necklace, as though nothing had happened. "Hungry?" I'll take you out for Japanese food. I took the necklace. And after only a few words, we started arguing again. Sam was silent for a long time and rubbed his brow. Then he said flatly, "How about we split up?" At that moment, I was a little stunned. It was unexpected, yet not unexpected. I am the kind of person who is very prideful in a relationship. Even if I am miserable and dying of regret, I still refuse to ask someone to stay. If the other person takes one step back, I will retreat 100. I said, "Okay." Without saying a word, he transferred me 200,000 yuan. What does that mean? His expression did not ripple in the slightest. It's nothing, just a small gesture. Even when I break up with someone, I don't like owing my other half anything. You don't have to feel too bad about it either. It would be the same no matter who it was. After saying that, he turned around and left cleanly and decisively. Chapter 2. Heh. I cursed him in my heart. Don't come crying back to me in the future. That night, like some kind of psycho, I lay in bed replaying and chewing over his words and the breakup scene again and again. Very well. The one who brought up the breakup and said the heartless things wasn't me. It was as if, so long as I was certain he was the one in the wrong, I would have a few more chips in my hand. Then when he thought back on it in the future, he would regret it even more. Before going to sleep, I was certain that he would definitely come back to me. But the next day, he changed all his profile pictures. On the third day, he changed his moments cover too. It had originally been a photo of me. Now it was a cat. On the fourth day, a friend sent me a screenshot of his moments. Someone had replied under their own post to Sam. "Sam, are you single now?" He replied, "Yeah." I stared at that one word for a long time. In the past, whenever we broke up, he never said things like that on moments. Then another screenshot came through. Someone invited him out. And he went. The photo showed the dim lighting of a lounge bar. He was sitting in a booth, and beside him sat a girl with shoulder-length hair and very soft lines to her profile. He lowered his head to listen to her, a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. That smile was too familiar to me. Back when he had first been pursuing me, that was exactly how he used to look at me. I placed my phone face down on the table and went to the kitchen to pour myself a glass of water. After I finished drinking it, I realized my hand was shaking. That was when the insomnia started. In that instant, I knew that this time, he probably really did want to break things off for good. That was when it began. I could not stop myself from posting melodramatic words late at night, only to delete them again the next day, afraid he might see them, and afraid he might not. On my birthday in January, my friends organized a gathering. The venue had been pulled through connections by a friend, a very quiet lounge bar that had been cleared out for a private booking. I knew what my friend had in mind. She had let the news slip out because she wanted Sam to come. I did not stop her. From 8 in the evening to 10 at night, we waited. The candles were lit 3 times. Photos were taken, and then they were blown out again. The cake was cut and handed around. We listened to 7 or 8 songs and drank 3 or 4 glasses. He did not come. My friend called him behind my back, lowering her voice. "Sam, it's Zoe's birthday today. Aren't you coming?" I pretended not to hear and lowered my head to fiddle with the fork on the cake. A few minutes later, my friend came back, looking a little awkward. He said something came up and he couldn't get away, but he hired a band to come over. "They'll be here soon." I nodded and said nothing. That band was pretty well known locally, niche, and hard to book. I had mentioned them to Sam once before, saying that their live performances were especially good. At the time, he had only gone, I thought he had not taken it to heart. The band sang 4 songs. After I finished listening, I said goodbye to my friends and took a cab home. When the car reached Huaihai Road, it got stuck in traffic. Out of boredom, I looked out the window. The display window of the Gucci store on the roadside was still lit. 2 people were standing in front of it. I knew the man. 4 months after our breakup, he was still wearing the gray overcoat I had gone with him to buy. The woman was not unfamiliar to me either. It was the same shoulder-length haired girl from the photo, tilting her head up and smiling as she said something to him. He was carrying 2 shopping bags, his expression calm. He was someone who hated trouble, and in the past he had rarely gone shopping with me. Some things had probably already settled into place. The driver honked. "Traffic's moving ahead." I turned my head back. Let's go. I remember that day. It was January 16th, the day after my birthday. At 7:23 in the morning, the first thing I did after waking up was not reach for my phone, but lie under the covers for 3 minutes, staring blankly at the ceiling. The 180th day after the breakup, I could finally open my eyes without thinking of him. Then I turned on my phone and deleted every single burner account on all my social media apps. There was no sense of ceremony. No posting on moments to announce, I've let go. I just got up and tapped a few times, like deleting a batch of expired photos. Chapter 3. The next day. A coworker I was on fairly good terms with introduced me to a guy, saying he had pretty good credentials and telling me to go meet him. I originally wanted to turn it down, but my coworker said it had already been arranged, and not going would be disrespectful. Fine. We met at a barbecue place. I arrived 5 minutes early, and he was already there. When he stood up to greet me, his gaze swept over me from top to bottom, and he smiled as he said, "You're prettier than in your photos." I frowned slightly as I sat down and did not respond. He started introducing himself, where he graduated from, where he worked, how many properties his family owned, what kind of car he drove. He spoke very quickly, like he was reciting a resume. I listened and occasionally gave an all the while thinking about how to end this as soon as possible. After the food came, he abruptly changed the subject. "I heard you dated someone before?" My chopsticks paused for a second. "I've seen him a couple of times," he said casually. "That guy's nothing special. His family has a bit of money, but he's not capable himself. Did you know he used to want to study painting? His family wouldn't allow it, and he really just gave it up. Rich kids like that are pathetic. They can't make a single decision for themselves." I said nothing. He thought I was listening, so he continued, "And I heard he's kind of a jerk too. Dates one girl and dumps the next. You didn't lose anything by breaking up with him. Have you really met him?" I put down my chopsticks. He froze for a moment. "Have you really met Sam?" I asked. His expression turned a little uncertain. "No, not really, but in our circles everyone." "Then that means you haven't," I said. "If you've never met him, what exactly are you sitting here judging him for?" His face stiffened a little, and he gave an awkward laugh. "Wasn't I just sticking up for you?" "There's no need," I said. "He treated me very well. Besides, our breakup was between the two of us. It has nothing to do with outsiders. And the thing you said about him wanting to study painting, I know about that. He's the one who didn't stick with it. Not because his family forbade him. He doesn't blame his family. So there's no need for you to do it for him." I looked him straight in the eye. "Not one thing you just said was right." His expression turned stiff. All right, he said with a dismissive wave. "You're so protective of him. If he was that great, then why did he dump you?" I said. "Those things don't contradict each other. Him dumping me and him treating me well don't contradict each other." But I knew perfectly well that he did not understand. People like him see everything in black and white. If you're together, then it's good. If you break up, then the guy is trash. But I knew it was not like that. I had been with Sam for 3 years. I knew what kind of person he was. He might not know how to manage an intimate relationship, but I had never thought he was a jerk. A jerk is the kind who lies to you, plays you, uses you up, and throws you away. He wasn't like that. He genuinely wanted to be good to me. It was just that some things could not be changed. I had never thought Sam was a jerk. He froze when he heard what I said. "So you see," I said, picking up my chopsticks and taking a piece of candied eggplant. "You know nothing, and yet you talked all night." His expression changed several times, and in the end he forced out a smile. "Fine. My bad for talking too much. But don't blame me either. In your situation, people are bound to make assumptions." I let out a cold laugh. "What kind of situation am I in?" He looked at me, and there was something else in that smile now. "You've been broken up for half a year and you're still speaking up for your ex. What did he feed you? Some kind of love potion? Or do you just like rich guys?" I said nothing. He thought he had hit a nerve, so his tone relaxed even more. "I'll just be blunt. With your circumstances, Finding someone like me is already pretty good. A guy like Sam was only ever messing around. You think he was really going to marry you? Look at his family background. Then look at yours. Are you maybe really bitter about him? I cut him off, and he froze for a second. What? Sam, I said, you seem especially bitter about him. His expression shifted. The things you just said didn't sound to me like you were trying to stand up for me. I stared straight into his eyes. You wanted to say them for your own sake. You can't stand people like him, born into money, never having to fight for anything, having whatever they want. And you have to study like crazy, work like crazy, save like crazy to buy a car and a house. And after clawing your way to where you are today, you still find that he started out somewhere you'll never be able to reach. His face went rigid. So the only thing you can do is come to a setting like this. Talk to someone who knows him, and call him pathetic. Call him a jerk. Say he only has what he has because of his family. And after saying all that, you feel a little better inside? What the hell are you talking about? Am I wrong? I looked at him. Everything you just rattled off, where you graduated from, where you work, how many houses you own, what car you drive. I didn't ask a single thing. But you volunteered it all. You care so much about those things because there are people who don't care about them and still have them. And you can't stand that. His face flushed bright red. I've seen plenty like you, I said, picking up my bag. You can't break into the circles you want. So you love saying other people are no good. Once you've said it, it's like you've somehow made yourself superior. I stood up. He stood up too. His lips moved, but not a single word came out. That's enough, I said. Dinner's on me. After all, it costs money to drive out here. I started walking toward the door. Behind me, I heard him curse. Who the hell are you putting on an act for? You're a cheap piece of leftovers who got dumped and played out. And now you think you get to be picky? The door was pushed open. Sam was standing there. He was wearing that dark gray overcoat and standing in the doorway. His expression unreadable. I had no idea why he was here or how long he had been standing there. He looked at me once, and after confirming that I was all right, his gaze moved past me and landed on the person behind me. He said nothing. He only looked at him. An inexplicable pressure filled the air. The guy's face went from red to white, from white to green. His lips moved, but he did not dare utter a single word. Sam took one step forward. The guy stumbled back 2 steps in a row, crashed into the table, and dishes clattered loudly. Sam, I said. He stopped and turned to look at me. I knew what he was thinking. He wanted to hit him, wanted to stand up for me, wanted to make that guy swallow his words. He was wearing a dark gray overcoat with a sharp cut. He had probably just come from some formal occasion. I had no idea why he was here, but with one glance, I could tell he was here to discuss business. Dressed like this, at this hour, he was probably supposed to head to the reception area of the private room next door. He saw me, his gaze resting on me for a second to confirm that I was all right, and then moved past me to land on the person behind me. I knew that look. Calm, faint, but with something suppressed underneath it. He was genuinely angry. Before he came in, he must have already heard something, but I did not want him stepping in for me at a time like this. The people waiting for him in the private room next door, whether business partners or whoever else they were, this was not the moment for him to get dragged into something like this. I stepped forward and blocked his line of sight. It's fine, I said. Let's go. He lowered his head to look at me. 1 second. 2 seconds. The man beside us had backed himself into the corner and did not dare make a sound. We're leaving, I said, tugging lightly at his sleeve. He lowered his head and glanced at my hand, then lifted his head and looked at that man again. That glance was brief, but the man shrank back even more. She said we're leaving, so I'm listening. Next time you talk, weigh your words yourself. Then he turned around and walked out with me. Chapter 4. The hallway lighting was warm. He walked beside me, his overcoat brushing lightly against my arm. I said nothing, and neither did he. When we reached the elevator, he suddenly stopped. How did you get here? By cab. He paused for a moment, then said seriously, wait for me 10 minutes. I'll drive you. His gaze flicked toward the deeper end of the hallway. That was where the private rooms were. A middle-aged man in a suit was standing there by the door, and behind him stood a young woman who was looking this way with a strange expression. I recognized her. She was the one from last time in front of the Gucci display window on Huaihai Road. So she was the daughter of a business partner. It's raining outside. Go wait in the car first. After saying that, he took off his coat and draped it over my shoulders, then handed me the car keys. The coat was fairly heavy and still carried his body warmth. I stood there, after watching his back disappear into the distance. I took the coat off, draped it over my arm, and walked to the front desk. Hello, could you please pass this to Mr. Sam? I placed the coat and the keys together on the counter. The girl at the front desk froze for a second. May I ask who you are? A friend, I said. Tell him I left first. Then I walked toward a cab. As soon as I got out of the car at home, the night wind rushed over me. It was still raining outside, thin and fine, falling on my hair like mist. My phone rang. It was a message from him. Where are you? I looked at that line of text and thought for 3 seconds. I did not reply. Chapter 5. That very night, once my friend found out that the guy she had introduced had spoken so recklessly, she kept sending messages to apologize. I did not reply to those either. Who knew that early the next morning, she would show up at my door carrying big bags and small ones. When I opened the door, I froze for a second. Her expression was awkward. In her hands were fruit, bird's nest, and a box of tea that looked expensive at first glance. What's all this for? She peeked inside. Can I come in and talk? I stepped aside and let her in. She set everything down on the coffee table, sat down, rubbed her hands together, and only after a long while did she speak. I'm sorry, Zoe. That guy yesterday. He's a relative on my husband's side. I really didn't know he was that kind of person before. I poured her a glass of water and said nothing. I really didn't do it on purpose, she said. Looking at me, I just wanted to introduce you to someone whose conditions seemed decent. Who knew he'd start talking like that the moment he opened his mouth? All right, I said. It's not your fault. She let out a breath of relief, but her expression was still awkward. After a few seconds of silence, she spoke again. But don't be angry anymore. Something happened to him. I held my water glass and looked at her. He lost his job, she said. He was notified this morning. He couldn't even get into the office. I asked around through some people, and they said someone higher up had put in a word. I did not respond. She sighed. It was Sam, actually. Sam didn't really do anything. He just let people know he was upset. But think about it, with the kind of circle he's in, who would still dare hire that guy? I took a sip of water. But Sam's pretty strange too, my coworker said, glancing at me. I've never seen him stand up for anyone all these years. You two have already been broken up for 6 months. So what's he getting out of this? Could it be that he wants to get back together? I said nothing. My friend thought I was thinking about something, but in reality I had only remembered what he said on the day we broke up. Even when I break up with someone, I don't like owing my other half anything. You don't have to feel too bad about it either. It would be the same no matter who it was. What happened yesterday would not have been because I was somehow special, either. He was just that kind of person. If something happened right under his nose and he could not stand it, he would step in. If it had been any one of his ex-girlfriends, he would still have made sure that person wouldn't show up again. It wasn't for me. It was his own rule. So I did not take any of this as some kind of signal. Chapter 6. I did not expect to have dinner with Sam again so soon. It was a gathering organized by mutual friends. They said it had been a long time since everyone got together, and only when I arrived did I realize he was there too. He was sitting by the window, and beside him was that girl. She had long hair, and when she smiled her eyes curved. She was saying something to him. He tilted his head to listen, the corners of his mouth carrying a faint curve. I paused for a moment, then found a seat and sat down. It just so happened to be diagonally across from him. When the girl saw that I had arrived, she waved enthusiastically. I smiled a little and nodded. That girl was called Olivia. Her family had business dealings with Sam's, and she happened to run into our group of friends. So she simply joined us for dinner. She was very outgoing, good with words, and knew how to keep the atmosphere lively. By the end of the meal, She had taken care of everyone perfectly. At the table, everyone was cautious at first about the relationship between Sam and me, afraid of bringing up something they should not mention. Later, because Olivia got the mood going, things gradually became more relaxed and cheerful. From the corner of my eye, I looked at Sam. Today he was wearing a dark gray sweater, with the cuffs rolled up slightly. Olivia put food on his plate, and he said, "Thanks." Olivia asked him questions, and he answered seriously. When Olivia smiled, he smiled too. It was not the kind of smile people wear for social niceties. He was genuinely smiling. As I looked at that scene, I suddenly thought of when I had first met him. Back then, it had also been at a dinner gathering. Sam had been surrounded by a crowd. Some people were toasting him. Some were handing him water. Some were leaning close to say things in his ear. He leaned back in his chair, looking relaxed and careless, a faint curve at the corner of his mouth, as if he were listening, and yet as if none of it was really sinking in. A very pretty girl sat beside him. I did not know whose guest she was, but she kept turning toward him to talk. Sometimes he nodded. Sometimes he smiled. The smile was faint, impossible to fault, but there was no warmth in it. At that time, I was not familiar with him yet. I was sitting in a corner, eating absent-mindedly. Later, he was pulled away to play cards. A whole group of people crowded around and followed him over. And that girl went too. He sat down, drew cards, played them, won money, lost money, all with the same absent air. People flattered him, and he listened. People fawned over him, and he smiled. After losing several big rounds, the people around him were more agitated than he was. He, on the other hand, did not care at all. He casually pushed his chips out as if he were just passing the time. I watched him for a while, not because he was handsome. It was because, even though he was smiling, there was nothing in his eyes. Later, I found an excuse to step out of the private room. That place was too noisy. Staying there too long made me feel stifled. Only when I got to the door did I realize I had forgotten my phone. So I turned back. At the corner of the hallway, someone was leaning against the wall. Sam. He was standing there alone, a cigarette between his fingers, its glow flickering on and off. The hallway lighting was dim and yellow, falling across the side of his face. His features looked sharply defined, but I could not make out his expression clearly. All I could see was that he had his head lowered, as if he were thinking about something, or as if he were thinking about nothing at all. That sense of loneliness was even heavier than when he had been at the card table just now. I paused for a second, then prepared to walk past him and get my phone. Looking for this? He lifted his head. My phone was in his hand. I took it from him and nodded politely. "Thank you." Normally I should have left right away, but I did not move. I do not know why I did not move either. Maybe it was because the way he was leaning against the wall made him look too lonely. Maybe it was because I remembered the emptiness in his eyes at the card table just now. I said, "If you're unhappy, you can leave." He arched a brow, as if that had sparked a little interest. "What makes you say that?" I glanced toward the private room. The door was closed, but the noise inside was only growing louder. "They may look like they're all gathered around you, but you've been out here this long, and no one has even noticed." He did not say anything. He just looked at me. That gaze was different from before. It was not the faint, agreeable gaze from the card table, the kind that looked good with everything. He was really looking at me now. After a few seconds, he smiled a little, a real smile. "Then where should I go?" he asked. After that, he kept finding different excuses to ask me out. And later on, we naturally ended up together. He canceled several very important meetings just because I said that day, "I want to see you." He never ate spicy food, but he spent a whole year eating hot pot with me. Later, when I asked him why he never said anything, he said, "As long as you like it." He knew that staying up late gave me stomachaches. So every time I worked overtime late into the night, he would have hot porridge delivered especially for me, never making me go downstairs to get it. Later, one of his friends told me that they had never seen Sam treat anyone like that. With him, throwing money around is easy, but getting him to spend time and effort, that's hard. When I spoke, he listened. When I smiled, he smiled too. Whatever I said, he would respond. If he could not respond, He would just look at me and wait for me to keep talking. Only later did I realize that he could only keep up with the happy version of me. He could not handle the unhappy version of me. One time, something went wrong at work, and someone shoved the blame onto me. I was so angry I was trembling all over. I called him and spoke in fits and starts for half an hour. Actually, I rarely showed negative emotions in front of Sam. At the time, I probably felt that our relationship was deep enough that my real feelings came out naturally. After listening, he was silent for a few seconds, then said, "Don't be angry. Being angry is bad for your health." I said, "I'm not angry. I'm hurt." He said, "Then don't be hurt. Cheer up." I froze. Cheer up. Chapter 7. Later, there was another time when we argued. I went over the problems between us, saying he never spoke up, saying he avoided things, saying that carrying everything on my own was exhausting. After listening, he said, "I know I'm not good enough, but if you keep talking about these things, how are we supposed to move forward?" I said, "I'm bringing these things up precisely so we can move forward." He said, "Shouldn't moving forward mean forgetting all this and being happier?" I looked at him and suddenly did not know what else I could say. He thought happiness was a choice, but I thought solving things was a process, and happiness was the result. What he wanted was an easy, effortless relationship, but what I wanted was someone who could solve problems together with me when they came up. That was when I realized that Sam had actually rarely ever told me what he really thought. It felt like I had never truly known what was in his heart. After that, I stopped saying much, and after that, we broke up. Zoe? I came back to myself. My friend was looking at me, smiling as she asked, "What are you thinking about? I've called your name several times." I smiled a little. "Nothing." I zoned out. I picked up my glass and took a sip of water. "I'm going to the restroom." The hallway was very quiet. I stood in front of the sink and looked at myself in the mirror. It was all right. My expression looked normal. I had not fallen apart. But in truth, there was a little sadness and disappointment in my heart. Not because of Sam, but because I felt a little disappointed in love itself. It was as if even the best relationships all ended the same way. When I pushed the door open and came out, I heard people talking around the corner. It was Olivia's voice. "It's okay, I guess. He's pretty quiet, but once you get to know him, he's fine. It's just that after knowing him this long, he's never taken the initiative to ask me out. Even when we talk, it's always me asking and him answering." Another female voice laughed. "Don't overthink it. I think you've got a shot. With Sam's personality, not rejecting you is already not easy." Olivia laughed too. "I think so too. I'll just take it slow. Anyway, both families are on board." I stood where I was and did not move. Only after the voices in that direction had faded away did I keep walking forward. When I got back to the door of the private room, my friend was standing there, as if waiting for me. When she saw me come back, she tugged lightly at my sleeve and asked with concern, "Are you all right?" I smiled. "I'm fine." My friend sighed and asked, "Zoe, are you still heartbroken?" I thought about it for a moment. The time when it hurt has already passed. I said seriously, "It doesn't hurt anymore now, and I don't love him anymore either." The moment the words left my mouth, the door behind me was pushed open. I stumbled, but someone caught my wrist firmly from behind, and my back fell against that person's chest. I looked up. Sam was standing there, looking down at me, very close enough for me to see clearly what was in his eyes: shock, astonishment, and something else I could not quite understand. His gaze met mine. He parted his lips, wanting to say something. Then his phone rang. Chapter 8. I lowered my head and glanced at it. It was the supplier. "Hello?" Whatever they said on the other end. I answered a few times and hung up. I stepped back. His arm was still hanging in midair, not withdrawn. I looked at him, just one glance. Then I turned sideways, walked past him, and did not look back. By the time I finished dealing with work and got home, it was already past midnight, so I simply applied for time off the next day. When I woke up again, it was already close to noon. I glanced at my phone and froze. Dozens of missed calls. From Sam, from my friend, and from several unknown numbers. Just then, another call came in. It was my friend. The moment I answered, she exploded. "My lady, where are you right now? You finally picked up." Her volume was so loud that I had to hold the phone farther away. "At home." "At home? Then why does your IP address show you in the UAE?" I froze for a moment. "Sam was going crazy looking for you. He thought that after answering that phone call yesterday, you got on a plane straight to the UAE. The situation over there has been tense lately. He said he couldn't get through to your phone, and your location showed you were abroad. He was so anxious he almost bought a ticket and flew over there himself to look for you." I parted my lips, and suddenly understood. Yesterday on the phone, the supplier had said, "We're leaving today," and I had replied, "I'll come over right away." On top of that, because of my usual work habits, I had my VPN on, so my IP address had automatically jumped overseas. A complete accident. Didn't it occur to him to ask at the company? One question and he would have known I wasn't on a business trip at all. My friend was silent for a second. "Zoe." Her voice suddenly dropped. "Do you know something? The first person he called was me, asking where you were." I said I didn't know. Then he started asking whether you'd said recently that you were going abroad, whether you had mentioned anything dangerous, whether you'd been in a bad mood. I said no, but he was still afraid just in case. After hanging up, he called again 10 minutes later and asked whether I remembered what color clothes you were wearing yesterday. He said he wanted to check the security cameras and see which direction you had gone. I held the phone and said nothing. When people get nervous, their IQ really drops. I've known him for years. Once he's done, he's really done. He never drags things out. I've never seen him like this. I leaned back against the headboard and gave an My friend widened her eyes. "That's your reaction? What else? Should I cry? Or get back together with him?" There was a pause on the other end. Her tone turned complicated. "Your heart is really hard." I smiled a little. It wasn't that my heart was hard. It was just that I'm the kind of person who cries when I'm hurt. And once I'm done crying, I move on. I don't fight with myself. Chapter 9. After hanging up, I looked at Sam's missed calls. My fingertip paused over the screen for a few seconds, but I still exited the page. Given our relationship now, there was no need to report that I was safe. In the end, we were people who were only going to drift farther and farther apart. But after that day, I ran into Sam again. It was at an industry summit, and the channel partner I went with was very considerate and even made a detour to pick me up. His name was Ryan. I'd heard he was a rich second-generation founder who had started his own business. We had worked together for 3 years, and our relationship had always remained neither close nor distant. Today he was wearing a dark blue suit, restrained and handsome. When he saw me coming downstairs, a flicker of amazement flashed across his eyes. He adjusted his rimless glasses and smiled. "You look beautiful today." I froze for a moment. In 3 years of work, I had rarely dressed like this in front of him. Most of the time, I wore professional work clothes. A style like today's really was a first. I nodded. "Thank you." Once we entered the venue, a setting like this naturally involved drinking and socializing. Ryan stayed by my side the whole time. When I greeted people, he stepped in at the right moment to block drinks for me. When someone kept talking endlessly, he stepped in at the right moment to pick up the conversation. When we ran into someone I did not want to deal with, he gave a light block and smoothly guided the person away. In 3 years of working together, this was the first time I realized he was this attentive. What I did not know was that Sam, from a distance, had taken in all of this. He was surrounded by people the whole time. This executive, that chairman, all carrying wine glasses and edging up to him. He handled them, nodding, clinking glasses, saying the proper social phrases, doing everything flawlessly. But when my peripheral vision drifted over, I realized his gaze kept straying in this direction. I ignored it and continued discussing projects with the few middle-aged men in front of me. Ryan stood beside me, occasionally adding a few words, but more often simply watching me speak. Sam had said before that I glowed when I was working, that my eyes shone and that I spoke with perfect clarity. Back then, he had liked watching me like this. A middle-aged man in a gray suit was speaking. "I truly admire Zoe's eye for things. Last year's project, so many people didn't dare touch it, and you saw through it at a glance." I smiled and answered politely, "I just got lucky." It wasn't luck. Ryan cut in from beside me. I read her report. It was more forward-looking than all of ours. I turned my head to glance at him, the corner of my lips curving, just about to say something. Then suddenly, a steady male voice came from behind me. Zoe. Chapter 10. Several people turned around at the same time. When I saw him, my expression paused for a moment. Mr. Sam. I nodded, polite as if I were greeting an ordinary business partner. Sam did not respond to my greeting. He looked at those middle-aged men, and in the end his gaze stopped on Ryan. Then he suddenly said, "His judgment is indeed good, but the information on that project back then was something I specifically passed on to her." The air went still for a second. Several people looked at one another, their eyes moving back and forth between me and Sam. With that tone and those words, it was hard not to read too much into it. Why did it sound so much like he was staking a claim? I lifted my eyes and looked at him. Childish. But I still smiled and said calmly, "It was for work, Mr. Sam had information on his end, and we had judgment on ours. It was a mutually beneficial collaboration." With a few light words, I turned past on into collaboration. I cleanly stripped away all the vague, hard to define undertones. The people beside us got the message. Someone laughed and smoothed things over. Of course, Miss Zoe is a professional. Everyone in the industry knows that." Ryan had watched the whole scene from the side. He said nothing, only curled his lips slightly. Then he picked up his glass and nodded to me. "I'm going to get us some more drinks. Excuse me for a moment." Chapter 11. After Ryan left, I left too. I had only taken a few steps when Sam followed me and blocked my way. I looked at him. "Do you need something?" His voice sounded a little indistinct. "You didn't answer my calls because of him?" I remembered that phone call and felt there was no need to explain, so I simply let him misunderstand. I did not know whether he had not heard me clearly, but he said nothing, nor did he move aside. I stared at him. "I still have some work to take care of, so I'm leaving first." "Mr. Sam, why?" When he asked that question, his voice was hoarse. "We've been broken up for half a year. Do I need a reason to be seeing someone?" He answered, "No." After that day, I never saw Sam again. It was only later that I heard about this from a friend, who was very emotional when she told me. At a dinner gathering, someone asked him why he had gotten thinner lately, and he said, "I broke up. I feel awful." My friend froze on the spot. He had never revealed his own emotions before. Everyone immediately started showing concern and comforting him, but Sam said that after speaking it out loud, it seemed like it did not hurt as much anymore. So when painful emotions are received, the pain becomes smaller. He suddenly remembered how I had once shared my sadness with him, and how unmoved he had been at the time. It was not that he had not wanted to respond. He simply had not known what to say. After returning home, Sam sat at the dining table for 2 hours. The food in front of him was barely touched. Today was a family dinner. His father sat at the head of the table, taking the occasional phone call, his tone switching from courteous to commanding and back to courteous again. And in the course of one meal, he closed 2 business deals. His mother sat opposite him, spending most of the time replying to messages, only lifting her head once in a while to look at him and say, "Eat more." His younger female cousin was there too. She was in her senior year of college and looking for a job. At the dinner table, she cautiously mentioned that she wanted to work in new media, but before she could finish, her uncle cut her off. "That's unreliable. I've already arranged a job for you at a bank." His cousin lowered her head and said, "Okay." Looking at the side of her face, Sam suddenly thought of himself many years ago. Back in high school, he had once wanted to study art. It was not just a passing thought. He had genuinely liked it. He was pretty good at drawing too. His teacher had said he had some talent. That summer, he saved up a whole stack of drawings, picked one evening, and took them to show his father. His father was looking at reports and did not even lift his head. "What would you study that for? How are you going to make a living in the future?" He said, "I like it." Only then did his father lift his head and look at him. Sam still remembered that look to this day. It was not anger, and it was not disappointment. It was a calm sort of puzzlement, as if he were looking at a child who had said something foolish. There are a lot of things you like. People can't just do whatever they want. He never brought it up again afterward. It was not out of spite. He had genuinely felt there was no point. He knew his father was doing it for his own good. And he also knew he could not win against him. Under those circumstances, the normal script would have been for him to fight back, to rebel, to fall out with his family and then chase his dream. But he did not. He had never had that kind of personality. He simply put the drawings away and tucked them into the deepest part of a drawer. As for where that stack of drawings went later, he did not know. Thinking of this, Sam suddenly wanted to laugh. He had a good family background, good looks, a respectable job, and a gentle personality in everyone's eyes. He had everything going for him, but no one had ever asked him what he wanted, and no one had ever dealt with his bad emotions, except Zoe. But what did he want? Even he himself was beginning to forget. Chapter 12. When the dinner ended, his uncle patted him on the shoulder and said, "Not bad. You're a steady young man." His father nodded beside him, wearing an expression Sam knew all too well. It was the kind of satisfaction that said, "This is my son. I raised him well." He smiled, exchanged social niceties, and said his goodbyes appropriately, like a qualified son of the family. On the drive back, he suddenly felt a strong urge to call Zoe. It was not the kind of "I miss you" feeling. It was something much stranger. He wanted to talk to her, to hear her voice, no matter what she said. He wanted to hear her call his name. She used to say, "Can you stop bottling everything up? Can you tell me what you're thinking?" Back then, he never knew how to answer. In the education he had received since childhood, there had never been any lesson called talking to someone about what's in your heart. All he knew was how to be good to someone, remember what she liked to eat, pick her up when it rained, bring her late-night food when she worked overtime. He could do all of those things, and he did them very well. But those were not what she wanted. Or rather, not only those. She had said it many times. Every time. He understood. But every time, he still could not do it. It was not that he did not want to. It was that he did not know how. When the car entered Zoe's residential complex, he turned off the engine but did not go upstairs. His phone screen was lit. He tapped open her profile picture. Their chat history was still frozen at half a year ago. The last message had been from her. Only 3 words. "I'm leaving." He had not replied. It was not that he had not wanted to. He just had not known what to say. Whatever he said, she would not believe it anymore. Whatever he said would sound like damage control, not like asking her to stay. At the time, he had thought she would come back. They had broken up so many times before. Every time she left, he waited a while, and she came back. Chapter 13. After that, Ryan and I got a little closer, but we still did not take things one step further. Even though he asked me out from time to time. One day, Ryan had just taken me home after dinner. He dropped me off downstairs. We said goodbye. I went upstairs, stepped out of the elevator. The hallway light was off. I had just taken out my phone to use as a light when a figure moved over from the side. I jumped in fright, just about to scream. A finger lightly pressed against my lips. The light came on. Sam. He was leaning against the wall by my door, the corners of his eyes tinged red, his body swaying slightly. "You've been drinking?" He did not answer. He just looked at me for several seconds, then took a piece of paper out of his coat pocket, folded into quarters, the edges rough, as if it had been unfolded and refolded many times. Without blinking, he looked at me. "I was sorting through some things today, and I found this." I lowered my eyes and looked at it. It was my handwriting, ballpoint pen, crooked and messy, like a primary school kid writing an essay. Title: 10 Reasons I Hate Sam. 1. He never says what he's really thinking, no matter what you ask. It's always "I'm fine. It's okay. Don't worry about it." 2. He's too calm when we argue, like he's observing instead of taking part. I remembered it. It was from that argument, when I got drunk, could not sleep in the middle of the night, and got up to write it. Later, after we made up, he found it while tidying up. I snatched it away as fast as I could and said it was a classified document. After that, I forgot all about it. He looked at me, his voice hoarse. I read it over and over again twice. The words were all crooked and messy, but every stroke was pressed down hard. Like you were angry while you were writing. He paused. How was it that I just didn't take it seriously back then? Chapter 14. I said nothing. He continued. When I was about to put it back, I turned it over and only then realized. He flipped the paper over and held it out in front of me. There was writing on the back too. The title had only 2 words, like, below it. Line after line was packed densely together, crammed full. Some places had been revised. Some words had been written and then crossed out, as if I had thought for a long time before finally putting them down. I like the way you wait for me to get off work. I like the way you make porridge for me. The way you look at me when you lower your head. The tone you use when you call me Zoe. The words became denser and denser, more rushed as they went on, until by the end it was almost like I was filling cracks. At the very bottom of the page, there was one line of tiny writing, smaller than all the others, as if it had been added later. It's too hard to hate you. I thought about it all night and only came up with 10. Liking you. Once I start thinking, I can think of 100. Am I beyond saving? I stood where I was, looking at those words, and did not speak for a long time. He folded the paper back up and tucked it into the inside pocket of his coat, the side pressed against his chest. The hallway was very quiet. The motion sensor light went out, then came back on. He looked at me. Zoe, do we still have a chance? I said nothing. He waited a moment, as if he already knew the answer, then asked, after we broke up, were you ever hurt? I looked at him. The corners of his eyes were still red, and his body was still swaying a little, but what was in his eyes was clear. Chapter 15. I thought for a moment. I was hurt. How did you get better? During those 3 months after we broke up, I couldn't sleep at night, couldn't get up in the morning, and everything I ate made me want to throw up. I took a week off and stayed home in bed. Later, I realized that wouldn't work. The rent had to be paid, work had to be done, life had to go on, and then I got better. I paused for a moment and added, but I didn't get better all at once. I got better little by little. One morning, I woke up and realized that the first thing I wanted to do wasn't reach for my phone to see whether you had posted anything, but to think about what to eat for breakfast. At that moment, I knew I had made it through. After hearing that, he didn't speak for a long time. The hallway went dark again for an instant, and then the light came back on. He suddenly took a few steps forward. He was very close to me. He said, back then, I didn't know you would hurt like that. I thought that being with me had always made you unhappy. I looked at him. Sam, you've had too much to drink. Not that much. He said, I know exactly what I'm saying. The hallway light suddenly went out. The light was gone. In the darkness, he suddenly moved closer. I was pressed against the wall. His breath came down over me, his lips very close to mine, carrying the scent of alcohol. Warm, hurried. I'm sorry. I heard the tremor in his voice. I feel so awful. 1 second, 2 seconds. I pushed him away. You'll get better. The moment the door closed, I heard a very soft voice behind me. I won't. I stood inside the door for a few seconds. Then I changed my shoes, turned on the light, poured myself some water, and took a shower. Like every ordinary night,